a live interactive a workshop basically online to try to encourage people to be able to read their CT scan and to be able to try to treatment plan their cases on the CT scan. So basically that's what we are here, and I tried to kind of announce it from last week that we're doing this for this week. So I have a couple of CT scans that I put away for specific for the reason for this specific online live broadcast, just for you to go ahead and look. The purpose of this course, or this live surgery or live broadcast, is to teach you a little bit of basic about understanding CT scan, be able to see the images and look at it in a different way, and to understand them and what you can see. Now, we're going to use a Blue Sky biosimulated program where anybody can download this this program for no cost to them. So if you don't have it on your computer, just go into blueskybio.com and download their program onto your computer. Although it's okay for now, you don't need to do that right now. You could watch me as we go along, but for the future, it's not a bad idea to try to go ahead and do that. So now I'm actually live broadcasting from two different sites on Facebook. So there's two phones here that is being projected onto the computer. One is my phone on the Dental Implant Surgical Seminar, and one is my assistant's phone on New Parts Dental Lab, who is actually sponsoring this particular live, and Mr. Kurosh, who's very gracious to allow us to broadcast on his site, and they're located in Houston. Great lab, and you could go ahead and check them out on your on Facebook as well as on the internet with their website. So without any further ado, I'm going to actually now put my phone and it seems like my phone would not rotate, and I thought I'm able to basically rotate it. Let me just see. It's not allowing me to rotate that, and I try to. Okay, let me see if I can fix my phone here. Okay, here is. Let's try it one more time. Okay, my phone does not allow me. That's an iPhone, and Janet's phone is an Android, and Android is allowing me to. I gotta put something here so we can basically fix my phone. I'm throwing things around, but we're gonna get there. Okay, so here we are. Here we are. Got two phones at the same time. I gotta put something here. Hopefully. Okay. I'm gonna try to move them around as we go along. So anyhow, so here we are. The program is open on my computer, and I have two different CT scans that I want to show you. The first CT scan that we're going to, first of all, let's talk about basics. When you downloading this program onto your computer, you have few windows, and you can basically try to go into their default program and change it the way you like to. But I like to keep it the way it is that you're looking. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 different windows here. All these windows function differently as far as what you can see in them. And in order for us to actually be able to see that, let me download the first CT scan. So in order to bring the CT scan into the simulated program like Blue Sky Bio, you need to go into the upper top left side, and there is a small well, you could go to the file, or you could go right below the file. There is a folder that shows and says start from a patient CT scan on a DICOM image. Now I'm going to move this up a little bit so you could see what I'm talking about. Let's bring this back a little bit. So here is the button that we're talking about. You can go ahead and go into this button, or you could go to the file and open up the file, and then under the file it says open a project, okay, or actually a new project. In this particular case, we'll bring in new project. Now there's two different issues here that you need to pay attention. We're going to discuss how to read a CT scan. Now, to work with the program, that's another thing that you need to consider and you need to learn. So don't, if you're a beginner and you want to know about CT scan, you don't want to get too hung up on, okay, how did he do this? What did he do? Because we will do more broadcasts in the future and try to do something to go more into details of how. But what I want you to concentrate today, if you are as a beginner, to understand the actual understanding of the CT scan and what you should be looking for and what you should be doing, how to mark this, how to plan an implant, how to. So basically, try to concentrate to understand the CT and the whole concept of CBCT and why we're doing it, and how to actually be able to look at the program like this and understand the CBCT and be able to diagnose your patient and to be able to treatment plan your patient. That is what I want you to actually understand and concentrate on. So now we're going to go to a new project. We're going to open up. So I have the first one here, and I click, and immediately the computer recognizes and brings the DICOM images up. And then once the DICOM images come up, you get a window like this, where you know, in this particular patient, we're going to be working, I believe, on the mandible. No, actually, we're going to be working on a maxilla. I apologize. So I'm going to, actually, there are certain images that you really are not looking to have as part of your, these images, the DICOM images are very heavy, and you don't want to store too much image on your computer because it's going to kill a lot of your memory. So therefore, you want to try to eliminate as much as you possibly can that it's not related to what you are looking to go ahead and do. For example, take a look at this image down here. This image down here is a cephalometric image of the patient from the side. It goes all the way back to the vertebra. We're not interested in the patient's vertebra. We don't want to look into the patient's vertebra. So there is a little arrow over here where you can go ahead and basically increase or decrease the amount of a CT scan that you want to process into your simulated program. Now, to understand what exactly you're doing is that the CBCT machine takes multiple images of your patient. When the CBCT takes multiple images in different directions, they all come into your folder as what's called a DICOM images. DICOM images, if you will, you want to imagine, is the same idea as a JPEG that you do when you're taking a photo with your camera or whatnot. So that's basically the raw images that you have on your CBCT, and then you have to take those raw images and convert them into a program that's able to read that and layer those images on top of each other, so you're able to actually work on it and make it as one. So this is exactly what this program is doing, and this is what you're doing at this stage of the game. You're taking these images and you're saying to the computer, okay, I'm not interested in this amount of CT scan out into the patient's vertebrae. I want to go ahead and eliminate some of these images, okay, and I want limit it a little bit on top, a little bit on the bottom, these dark areas where they're absolutely useless because there's no image in that area. Here as well, you want to close it up as much as you possibly can to the anterior area. Make sure you don't cut off any area that teeth are there or any bone there, because we want to take a look at all these areas. So now I basically eliminated all these slices and all these images where it's kind of not useful. Now when I say okay at this point into the computer takes the entire separated JPEG image, maybe 400 to 500 images that are separated from each other. They're like photograph of each slice that the computer that the CBCT takes, and combines it in one big area where you can similarly program your implants. So now I'm going to say okay, and it actually happened very, very quickly, so it did not give you an opportunity to take a look and see what's going on here. But now we are inside a window. Now at this point, your program has basically taken all that CBCT and has converted it into a very organized images where you can actually work on the images that you have. Now let me explain to you exactly what you're looking at this point. We have, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 windows here. Okay, so let's go from the top left side. This image that you're looking at right now, this is an image of what's called a cross-sectional images. The cross-sectional images are very detailed on basically buccolingual images of your jawbone. Then the image immediately next to that, it's called an axial image. An axial image is when the CT scanner scans the patient from the floor all the way to the top of the patient's head. That's the direction of the CT scan. So the left one is a cross-sectional, which is from buccal towards the lingual, and the middle one over here is from the bottom, from the apical portion to the coronal to the top part of the head. Okay, we're going to skip this for 1 second, this image over here, because it's a little bit more complicated, and we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to come down here, so everybody is familiar with a panoramic view. Obviously, panoramic view is the image that goes from the left to the right or right to the left, whichever direction you want to go ahead and consider it. But that's basically, it's your panoramic view. Now, in this particular case, the panoramic view is actually a true panoramic view. This is not a CT scan. Okay, this is an actual panoramic view that you're looking at, and we're going to actually take that and make it to a CBCT. But before I move forward with that, let's talk about obviously the last image on the lower left side. So this image right now, obviously everybody can tell this is your 3D image. Now take a look at the 3D image, and I'm going to enlarge it so we can all take a look together. You see how you do not see the vertebra here? If I would have not at the very beginning eliminate those slices of vertebra, you will end up that spine. You will see that spine in this area. Or I eliminated some of the images that went above the orbit into the eye socket. You would have seen those images. Or if I would have cut off part of the bone, if I would eliminate that as part of the bone, when you eliminate that section of it, all of a sudden, it basically, you will not be able to recreate it back in here. So if you take too much off, now you have to go back and you reprocess your CT scan. Okay? So you cannot gain it back in this. You have already processed it. So don't save the image. Don't save this particular program or this study, and go back and try to reprocess and start fresh from the very, very beginning. Okay? So now, we're looking at the 3D. So to just quickly review, we have a cross-sectional on the upper left. We have an axial image in the middle. We have panoramic view in here, and then we have a 3D image on the lower left side. Now, this particular case is a patient that we want to work on a maxilla. Okay, so I can actually make this enlarged and take a look at the maxilla and say, okay, the mandible has all the teeth in the place. It's pretty good. I have no problem. Patient is doing well. Fantastic. Great. Okay. And we're going to go into a maxillary area where there is going to be an immediate implant placed in this area, tooth number 4, and then patient needs another implant in tooth number 2 area. Okay. So that's basically what this patient needs. But let's, again, try to concentrate on how to process our CT scan. This is what I want you to do all the time. When you are about to go ahead and treatment plan the patient, step back for a second and try to do these steps first to reset your entire CBCT on a simulated program, so you are ready to go ahead and look at and plan your case and have all the information that you need for a specific patient. Okay, so now let me put this up, this image, the axial image up. And now when you're looking at in this axial image, I don't know if you could see, but there is a line that actually going right now in here where it's not highlighted. It goes right in the middle. There's a bunch of squares. I don't know if you can see. You can see a bunch of square here, and then there is a little circly area here. Okay, so, and then you have this yellow line that's basically taking over on each end of your teeth. What you're looking at here, how do I know what exactly I'm looking at? Okay, let's just concentrate on that, and then I'm going to go in that area. There's a bunch of images that you have. One, in order for me to know exactly when I'm looking at my CT scan on this program, how do I know where exactly in this jaw, maxilla, mandible, left, right, what tooth number, what bone, which area is this right now at this point, this image that you're looking at right now, what area is it pointing out to you? Because you have some teeth over here. So which teeth are these? Is it 19? Is it 20? Is it 15? Is it 14? Is it what teeth number are you looking at in this area? Okay, so to orient yourself well, just by simply looking at and knowing where it's pointing out to, you got to look at a few things. One, are these yellow lines. This yellow line is the indication of this program right now being on a panoramic image. That means all the slices that the computer has taken from this yellow line. Look at my cursor here, everybody. Look at my cursor here in the axial. Okay, I'm moving my cursor. From this yellow line, I'm going to maximize it. So all the images that I have right now, from here, this yellow line to this yellow line, that is equivalent to this image that you're looking at right now. So that means this entire image is your panoramic view. That means the computer has taken all the slices, overlapped them, and it's presenting it to you on this panoramic view. That's what it's doing. Now, watch what's going to happen. I'm going to click a button, and everything is going to change in these two images. Okay? Pay attention to the axial and pay attention to the panoramic. Okay? Now, I just press a button over here, down here. We'll talk about it later. You don't have to worry about how I do it. I just want you to worry about, to learn how to look at things first. Okay? So now, I'm going to maximize this. Now take a look and see this line has become more like a outline, but it's not highlighted. And the middle line now is outlined. So what does that mean? Okay, so what this means is this line that's running immediately in this area, that corresponds to this image of panoramic that you have here right now. Okay, now watch what I'm going to do one more time. Okay, watch what I'm going to do and take a look and see how we're going to change this. I'm going to press a button again, and things are going to change back to the original image. I'm going to click up. Now take a look again. Now I have a highlighted outside, and inside it's not highlighted anymore, right? So when I come here, now you're looking at the true panoramic view. That means all these images that go, all the images that the CBCT has taken between these yellow lines now are all has been placed on top of each other like a book, and you're looking at this image that way. But when you're changing it, you're only looking at one slice amongst many slices in a panoramic view. Everybody got it? Okay? If you have any questions, you could just ask your questions and I try to get to it, but I just want to make sure that everybody got this part as far as exactly what you're looking at between the axial and the panoramic. Okay? Great. It seems like everybody actually got it, and we're going to move forward. Now, the other image that you need to pay attention to is, and it's going to be very hard for you to actually see. There is a very light blue line that's running here. This one you could see actually, okay? This blue line that you're looking at in this image down here, that corresponds, if it's very difficult to see, but you could see these numbers that are on the axial image on the bottom and on the side. These numbers are in blue color. That blue corresponds to this blue. That means this line, when you're looking at this axial, you're looking at this slice that has gone through almost at the incisal edges of a lower teeth. Okay, now watch what's going to happen. I'm going to click on something and take a look and see what's going to happen into the axial image. Okay, now I'm going to take my cursor, take a look over here. I'm in the panoramic view. Okay, everybody sees this? I'm in the panoramic view right now. I'm going to take my cursor and I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click this. Now that The blue line just came down there. And now take a look at your axial image. Let me just shorten this. Sorry. Now take a look at your axial image. You see how that changed? Now you're looking at completely something different. You're looking at the mandible, but you're looking at the mandible at this level. Okay? That's what you're looking at. So in order for you to know where you are in the axial, come to the panoramic view, take a look at your blue line, and that blue line tells you exactly where you are in the axial. So you're never confused of where you're at on your CBCT, on your planner. Okay? Now take a look and see what we're going to do here. The other image that we need to, that I like a lot, is my cross-sectional images, which are these images. But how do I know where I am at when I'm looking at this cross-sectional? Because at all times your eyes should be traveling on all images back and forth, and try to look at your image in a panoramic, axial, and a cross-sectional, and then eventually a 3D. But one thing I wanted to tell you is this. Something you have to understand. And most people don't pay attention to this. Yes, you are looking at the 3D image, but you really are not. Because even though this looks like a 3D image, but I can only look at this on a computer screen. And the computer screen is a 2D regardless of what I try to do. So now you understand, it's a 3D process, but it's working on a 2D projection. Is that clear? So, it is extremely important for your eye to roam around all the images simultaneously. Well, of course, it's not possible simultaneously, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So you have to be very clear on where you are at in all the images at the same time. So, how do I know where I am at? Okay, I'm looking at 3D, I'm looking at my axial, I'm looking at my panoramic. Okay, so what is this image right now? What is it showing me? Which part of the mandible is this? How can I locate that image right now in my panoramic view, axial view, and then we're going to get into the tangential, which is this image. I haven't spoken about that yet, but we're going to talk about it. But where is this image right now in relationship to everything else that you're looking at? Okay? So, here. Let me show you. Now, one of the things that the computer shows you are these specific lines. I'm going to click now. Something I want to share with you, and I just had my implant program in Guatemala, and we just came back from there. And it was a great success, and we were able to allow our participants to place up to 25 implants, and they seem very happy. And you know, if you want to check that out, you could go ahead and go to our website, dentalimplantsurgicalseminar.com. If you're already on my Facebook page, you see it. New Pars Dental sponsors our program. You could speak to Mr. Kurosh and inquire about that. He was there with us on this past program. But something that I wanted to tell you, and I learned later on that people had a little bit of a difficulty understanding, is don't be shy on exploring and clicking on your CT scan. Nothing will happen. I promise you nothing will happen. You want to see something? Click on it. Because once you click on what you want to concentrate on, all the images is going to be coming and forwarding into that specific area that you're looking to get people's attention to. Okay? So for example, I want to look at this image here. Can you see my cursor, everybody? Take a look at my cursor. I want to look at this area of the jaw. I click on it. You see what just happened? It's a whole area that just kind of moved into this bunch of lines. Come over here. I want to look at this area. Okay, I click this. Oh, I have all that lines coming back here. I want to look at here. So you understand, you want to see something, click on it. Okay? Now if I minimize this image, same thing here. Take a look at your cross-section right here. I'm going to click. As I'm clicking, image is changing. That is basically allows you to actually see what you want to see. Now, people who created this program recognize that you need to understand where you're at just simply by looking at it. So I just explained to you how you figure out which axial image this is right now. Okay, because I can page through the axial images one by one. I can go over here in this cursor. Take a look at my cursor here. I'm right up on top here, okay? And I can go, and as I'm paging through, you could see the images are changing. Okay, so I'm paging through. As I'm doing this, this blue line, that's the same blue line down here, it's moving up, right? So I know that I'm going, you know, apically. Now here is, now I can take it down. Oh, sorry. Well, now I'm clicking and it's going down. As I'm going down, I can look at the axial images. So you want to see your axial, the entire axial images up and down, you could do that. Okay? You could do that. Now, once you know what you want to see, here is the other information that you need to know. The other information that you need to know is, what are these images? Where are these images? Without you trying to figure out where you're at, you should be able to look at another image and try to figure this out. Just like we looked at the axial and the panoramic and we were able to figure out where we are at on each one. So now we want to figure out where this guy is in this on the axial or in the panoramic. Okay, now take a look at these lines. I'm going to maximize this. You see there are three lines here. One is red, one is yellow, and one is purple or blue, whatever you want to call it. Okay, there's three lines. These three lines are a millimeter. Don't pay attention to this right now because you're not going to be able to actually measure it, but I'm going to tell you. These images are a millimeter apart. That means the red to the yellow, yellow to the blue. Okay? Now, so that means one, a millimeter later, another image, a millimeter later, another image. Okay? So now let's close this for a second. And I'm going to maximize our cross-sectional. You may have a hard time and you have to trust me in this. Okay? There are three images here. You may be able to see it on the bottom. The middle one is very clear. You see how the middle one is yellow? You see these lines and the numbers? It gives you the number of millimeters that you should look at. Okay, you could use that for a millimeter. So this is yellow. This side, it's a little bit harder to see, it's purple. And this side, you might be easier to see, it's red. Okay, guess what? When I minimize this and I'm looking at this, we got yellow in the middle, we got red to the right, and we got purple to the left. So now, look at what you're looking at. Here in the axial image, it gives you information about your cross-sectional 3 lines. You could come down into the panoramic view, same 3 lines. That's where you're at. We're looking at tooth number 29 right now because I'm looking at the panoramic view and I see it's really pointing out tooth number 29. So this is number 29. I can click over here now. Oh, this is number 20. I'm looking at number 20. I can click down here and this is my molar tooth. Okay, we're going to talk about the images and what you're really looking at, okay, when we get to it. But that's right now. We want to locate ourselves where we are at each specific time. The blue line, that's the blue line that's correspond to this. So you're looking at the top of all the teeth on the mandible. See this blue line? Look where the blue line is in here. Okay, the blue line is up here. So you're looking at the top of the teeth all around. Okay, and if you come to the panoramic, yes, it is on the top of the teeth. Okay, so that's basically is your entire CT scan, and of course your 3D image is always going to be constant. One of the things about the 3D image is that you're able to reduce and increase the density of your CBCT. On the bottom there is a lever down here that you could maximize or minimize. Let me just show you what I mean. Down here, take a look, my cursor is down here, okay? And I'm going to take this and I'm going to go all the way. As I'm going, I'm reducing density, okay? This is the least dense density of a CBCT. What are you looking at here? You know what you're looking at? You're looking at fillings, you're looking at crowns. Why? Because the metal is much dense, and you're looking at the post. Take a look here. You see the post on the crown? Okay, because this density is much, much denser than the bone is and much denser than the tooth is. As I'm now increasing my density, everything is coming back. You're rebuilding everything. Now understand, enamel is denser, dentin is denser than bone. Okay? It's much harder to drill into them. That's why we drill with, oh thank you, somebody send me a like. Okay. That's why we drill on teeth with high speed and a lot of irrigation, versus we drill into the bone in a much slower speed. So you can understand that definitely is. So therefore you could change the density, and we're going to get there and talk about what it really means as far as a density is concerned and how that's going to help us. Okay, so now, sorry about that. I'm trying to keep my phone a little bit more supported here. Any questions? Anybody has any questions? You could just type it here, and I actually see, you know, you guys who are watching, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Okay, but don't feel like, and I'm not going to mention names and who's asking the questions, so if you want to stay anonymous, I'll be more than happy to do that. Okay, now let's move forward. So now we have all the images down packed. Now, what is this image down here? Let me just close this a little bit. Now we have another image that's lingering on this area. Okay, I'm pointing out to the upper right image. Okay, here, this area. Okay, what is this image? This image is called a tangential image, and it's basically what tangential is take a look at this. Take a look at the axial image. In the inside the axial image, where you have your 3 lines for a cross-sectionals, in the axial image you have this green light that's running dead center into these 3 lines. I'm just going to maximize that so we can all see a little bit clearer. So you have this little lever looking kind of, and it's in green, and it basically runs dead center in this area. Okay, now you could just rotate it around itself. Okay, and what this image is, it corresponds to this area here. Okay, and take a look at, don't look at me here what I'm doing in the axial, take a look in the tangential view in this area. I want you to look at this image. Now I'm going to rotate this guy around, and as I rotate, you could see the images are changing. And what is actually happening here is that this lever, if you will, okay, it's basically rotates itself around that one point. You got this one point here, okay, that rotates around this one point. So let's say we're looking at tooth number 20 right now, okay, and I want to see tooth number 20 360 all around. How do I look at the tooth sitting in the bone? I want to see the buccal, I want to see a lingual, I want to see the entire tooth rotating. So I'm just going to rotate this guy, and you can see the tooth. You see that tooth? It's basically rotates around the same tooth over and over and over again. Now this is helpful when you place your implant. Why? Because you're able to actually take a look at, when you plan your implant, just go around, make sure that you have bone all around your implant at that point. Okay, that's really what this is what this tangential is really working. Also, the other thing I usually do, for example, when I'm looking at this image right now, I'm looking at the image for the buccal of this tooth, and I can actually see how this tooth is in relationship to the tooth in front of it, to the tooth behind it. So when I place an implant in this area, I can do the same thing. I can see the mesiodistally what my relationship is. Once I figure that out, I can now rotate it into a buccal lingual image and now see what my relationship to the buccal lingual is going to be. So it's an extremely helpful image that you should get used to taking a look and trying to work with, and it's very, very useful to try to actually use it. So that's basically is the basics of the CBCT and what these images are all about. I'm not so sure if I want to right now continue as far as getting one other thing before I move forward, is that sometimes when you're looking at, I'm just putting a panoramic up, sometimes when you're looking at your panoramic view, there are certain images that are going to have missing parts too. Okay, and here is one area that you're looking at. Okay, you're looking at an area where I don't see the bone anymore. Okay, I see bone, 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 bone. I get here, and then it's kind of like it just kind of does this, and I don't understand it. Why the heck is this happening here in this area? Okay, so what's happening in that particular area is, take a look at the axial image. You see this yellow line right now? You see this curvature here? That's what that curvature does. It eliminates some of that information for you. Now, the first thing I do when I come into the CBCT, I try to correct that problem and try to see the entire anatomy of the patient. Sometimes it's not so easy because some areas where patients are missing bone in the lingual and there's a dip in the lingual, or there's too much bone and the patient has a class 3 maybe skeletal malocclusion or something. So it's harder for you to actually be able to see your most anterior area in the mandible and most posterior area in the mandible due to the anatomy of the mandible. But in this particular case, we have a very good, straightforward kind of mandible. And now take a look at my panoramic view. Take a look at this image right now, okay? Now, come up here in the axial. You see this yellow line? I'm going to move this yellow line slightly towards the buccal, and I want you to look at this image down here. Okay, I'm going to move this now a little bit towards the buccal. Do you see what just happened? That image all of a sudden completely changed. I took a point on the axial and I moved it towards the buccal. Now I'm going to move this one a little bit up. Now I have the entire mandible. I solved my problem in this area. What this is called mapping. You basically are mapping your each particular jaw. Of course, we know the mandible and the maxilla don't match each other. So right now, my entire concentration, as you're looking in here, is on the mandible. Our blue line is in the mandible, where it shows in the axial. Our cross-sectional is in the mandible. You could see the teeth are down here, okay? I concentrated everything in the mandible. Although I have the maxillary image as well, but I was looking into the mandible to try to actually work in the mandible. And now let's say we want to switch. Now this patient, you put in a couple of implants in the mandible. You're done with your treatment planning, and now you want to look at your maxilla. So I told you, don't be scared to click on what you want. So in order for me to move the entire images, cross-sectional, axial, tangential, panoramic, into the maxilla, all I got to do, go into an image anywhere you could find in the maxilla and click on it. So I'm going to go central incisor here in the panoramic view. I'm going to click. Once I do that, everything switches to the top. Now the reason you're looking at the mandible and the lower incisors here is because I magnify this. So I'm going to go ahead and actually demagnify, move image down, and magnify the maxilla, because we're done in the mandible and we want to take a look at the maxilla. So that's what we want to do. Okay? Now, the reason I did this is because I want you to pay attention here. Look at, remember I told you, this is what's called mapping. Now, your mapping is basically map that you have done previously was for a mandible. Mandible and maxilla don't match. It's completely a different anatomy. So now you got to work this out to match your maxilla. So now I'm going to take these squares, I'm going to bring them in, and I take these squares, I'm going to bring them in, and you can see these other images that, your panoramic images, the two lines that go on each side kind of follow you. Okay, now we are working obviously on a CT scan, so therefore this yellow line is highlighted. But if I minimize it and go into the panoramic view, now I got the yellow lines outside, as we discussed it before, right? So everybody remembers that. Now here we go. Take a look over here at my tangential. The other thing I do is I try to maximize my tangential view of bone. I grab onto this yellow line. I'm in the axial right now, guys. Take a look in the axial. I take one of these yellow lines on each end, but you got to be in a panoramic mode. This is right now in the panoramic mode. Remember, all the images between the two yellow lines are together and it shows your panoramic view. I'm going to take one of these lines at the end I'm going to grab onto this and I'm going to extend it. Now take a look here. Take a look at my tangential. As I'm maximizing it, I see more and more, and my window gets larger and larger. I like to see a little bit more, and that's why I kind of make it a little bit more. And then I bring this down and I maximize and I concentrate. So don't try to work on a mandible and a maxilla at the same time, because you will get very, very frustrated, because you constantly have to go back and forth between the two and try to fix yourself up. So my recommendation is, if you're working on the same patient on both jaw, take care of one jaw, finish your treatment plan, make sure it's good, and then go into the next jaw and then do it. As far as whether those implants are going to be in relationship to each other, for example, you're doing an upper left side and a lower left side, and you want to make sure that those implants kind of match well together, you are going to be able to see that once you start treatment planning it and putting it. And that's something that I'm going to, I'll probably have to speak to Mr. Kurosh and come up with another date that we're going to come back the next time, maybe take the same patient, maybe I'll bring in another patient to kind of treatment plan for you, and we'll place some implants, we draw some nerves, and we kind of try to get that patient going as far as diagnosing and treatment planning and the whole 9 yards. If you do have any cases that you'd like to share with me, you can email it to me at otermechi@gmail.com, and I can take a look at it for you and with you. And if it's an exciting and a good case, I will be more than happy to actually broadcast it next time when we are kind of here. So I just wanted to, let me just see, I'm going to rotate this. You may not, and I'm going to rotate this. Okay, so I got two phones going, two sites at the same time. So I appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully you learned something. This is only the beginning. We want to try to educate everybody as much as we possibly can to be able to be productive with their own CBCTs and treatment planning. And you know, we at DISS here to help you. If you need any help, whether you're a participant or was a participant or want to be a participant, we'll be more than happy to go ahead and help you. And our program with New Pars Dental as one of our sponsors is extremely strong, and if you like to know a little bit about it, you can join me on my Instagram, which is dr.omid on Instagram, and on Facebook is Dental Implant Surgical Seminar, and our website is dentalimplantsurgicalseminar.com. You could go there and find out for yourself. If you're already placing implants and you know how to do it and you're good at it, and those are all good, fantastic. And you could take our advanced course, which is a sinus lift course. You do 4 lateral sinus lifts and simultaneous implant placement, some of the patients, if they're okay to get. But that's basically what our course is about. And as far as the implant is concerned, you place 25 implants, all on live patients. But my philosophy is education. We first have to learn how to do these things. So I don't want to criticize other programs, but at the very beginning, my program, especially if you're a beginner, you need to understand and pick up all the basics of implant dentistry first before you can continue to go and treat the patients. Just like in dental school, they didn't let us do any MOD amalgams and composites and so on and so forth on a patient until we did it on a mannequin, and we educate ourselves in the classroom with all the didactic. It's the same thing. It's probably even more than that, because you're doing something that you could possibly have some permanent damage on the patient. So therefore, I run through the basic of implants, and second day we'll go through how to treat implant patients on CBCTs and how to plan the cases, how to make a guide, and eventually print it in your own office. And that's what I like to go ahead and do with New Parts Dental. Try to have a series of different kind of programs that we can do together, so you guys can kind of grow from here and do it. Whether you take my course or not, whether you learn how to do implants like this or not, that's basically up to you, and we'll be more than happy to give you a hand. So I wanted to again thank all of you for watching, and I hope you learned something, and I certainly did enjoy doing this for past an hour. If you have any questions, you could certainly text me, email me, or go on to any of these websites and New Parts Dental, Dental Implant Surgical Seminar, and send me a message through there, but you'll be able to find me. All right? Okay. Thank you very much.